morning, brothers and sisters. This is the 26th week of Ordinary Time, and these readings are just brutal. I'm not catching a break for the last couple times I've been preaching. The other day, Thursday night, I went to a concert. One of my favorite bands was in town, the Hillbilly Thomists. And they were playing on the north side, and they did not play one of my favorite songs. My favorite song is called You, and it begins with, actually, it's a collect from the Mass, and the prayer goes like this: won't you pardon what my conscience dreads, and grant what I do not dare to ask for. Pardon what my conscience dreads, and grant me what I do not dare to ask for. And I really, when I look at these readings as a whole, I dread the second reading. But they all fit together. They all fit together very neatly, very, very neatly. It's incredible. In Numbers, we get the story of Moses and the 70 elders and the two guys who were away from camp. Right? That's kind of the basic story we get. What we don't get is the front end of that and the back end of that. The front end of that, chapter 11, verse 4, there's a bunch of riffraff, which is what Scripture says. It calls the people riffraff, who stir up amongst the people this hunger, this desire for things that God isn't providing them, namely meat. So they stir up this desire within the hearts of the Israelite people for meat. So then this story happens, and then after this story happens that we get, God rains down quail on their camp, like heaps of it. Heaps and heaps of quail. And so they set it out to dry, and they collect homars of it. They collect these large, abundant supplies of it, and they hoard it. They store it up. Well, God doesn't like that they store it up, and he strikes them with a plague. And you're like, whoa, like that's the story of Numbers. We're just catching a glimpse of it here. Well, that directly, to me, leads to James. I mean, he's talking about your wealth is rotted away, your clothes have become moth-eaten, your gold and silver have corroded. He talks about, like, fire devouring the flesh here. Like, if somebody were reading these scriptures aloud to me and I were just hearing them, I would think they were describing one of the decorations I'm seeing around the neighborhoods. You know, we're fast approaching All Saints' Day, November 1st, All Saints' Day. We're fast approaching. It's a holy day of obligation. It's my favorite day of the year. I took it off. And All Saints' Day. And everybody's putting up these decorations to celebrate the eve of All Saints' Day. And they're trying to scare people, and they don't need to go much further than Scripture, because Jesus here is talking about ripping arms off. And of course, before that, he has John come to him, and John says, hey, there's these people who are out preaching, and we tried to stop them. And Jesus says, don't stop them. Well, doesn't that sound familiar? That sounds exactly like Numbers, like Moses from our first reading, right? I love how those fit together. So, but Jesus here is threatening us. He's really, truly threatening us. He says, you know, whoever causes these little ones to sin, it would be better if a great millstone were hung around our neck. Like, here's what I've been envisioning all week. Because my kids are preparing for Halloween. Like, Dad, what would you be for Halloween? Here's what I would be. I would go through and do an inventory of sin in my life. And I would like make a scarred up eye, you know, or because I gossip sometimes, maybe I'd stitch my lips closed. You know, or because maybe if I steal, I cut my arm off. You know, maybe if I come up with something creative. Maybe if I eat too much, I have a fake stomach hanging out, and I'm like this, like holding my stomach. If you go back and look at our Catholic culture and our saints, our those who strove for holiness throughout our church history, you'll find some very curious images of saints holding their heads or holding their skin. St. Bartholomew holding his skin, St. Denis holding his head, St. Lucy holding her eyeballs. Like, it's supposed to be weird. We're not supposed to be threatened by death because we have Jesus Christ. We have the power of Jesus Christ. And that is right where our psalm, I love this psalm, and I caught it right when I was sitting over here. And I had to highlight it because this is, I think, the key. Though your servant is careful of them, very diligent in keeping them, yet who can detect failing? Cleanse me from my unknown faults. Cleanse me from my unknown faults. Lord, make me poor. Cut off. Help me to see what I need to cut off so that I don't have a millstone hanging around my neck, or at least a big one when I'm on my way to heaven, right? Picture what you want when you're coming up here to receive Jesus. How do you, what is it that's hampering you? Cut it off now and come up as a zombie, whatever it is, just get rid of it. Because he's here to heal you. He is the divine physician. He's here to bind all those wounds. And would that we were all prophets. Would that the Spirit would come down upon us, as Moses said, and that the Lord might bestow his Spirit upon all of us.